It's National Signing Week at 24/7 Sports. Here's a look at the Georgia 2024 class, ranked #1 in the nation and in the SEC. It's the Dogs' third top-ranked class in the last 7 years, and it could end up being rated even higher if the Bulldogs get a signature from Terry Bussey on signing day. Ben Wolk of Dogs 24/7 and Andrew Ivins with me now to break down this class further. We'll start with the five-star talent. It all comes on the defensive side of the ball in this class. We know the 2023 Bulldogs defense wasn't bad by any means compared to what's there nationally, but it wasn't up to their own standards set in Athens. Ben, how important was it for the Bulldogs to reload on this side of the ball?
Yeah, you don't develop the reputation of being the best defensive program in college football by not recruiting five stars on that side of the ball. And so for Georgia, like you said, Grace, taking a step back a little bit by their own standard in the 2023 season, it was really important to reload in the 2024 recruiting cycle on that side of the ball. 2 5-star defensive backs, Ellis Robinson and KJ Bolden. Getting KJ Bolden late in the process, flipping him from Florida State, was huge for Kirby Smart's program to really bolster the defensive backfield. And then 2 linebackers, Chris Cole and Justin Williams at the linebacker position. For Georgia to get those 4 guys, those 4 5-stars, really beef up the defensive side of the ball heading into the next season, I think that the future is bright for Kirby Smart's defense, which is probably something that we've been saying for quite a while now.
The defense is the identity of that program there in Athens. You look at what they've done the past few years. 19 defenders have been drafted in the NFL draft last 3 years. 4 more probably this year, but they needed to get better. And Georgia, especially on that defensive side of the ball, it's not a program where they're going to take developmental guys. You show up in Athens and you be ready to go, because if not, they're going to put you in the transfer portal. I think what stands out to me about that defensive haul is the 2 defensive backs, Ellis Robinson, KJ Bolden. They already had talent there. We've seen some corners leave, some guys transfer other places. We know Malachi Starks, Julian Humphrey, Dalen Everett, but KJ Bolden, Ellis Robinson, these are the type of individuals that year 1, year 2, they should be pushing for playing time like a Malachi Starks. So that's where it stands out to me. And then the defensive line group, Naz Johnson, a local in-state kid that they flipped from rival Florida. I think he's a guy that could be a difference maker in the middle. And you look at Georgia's 2 deep heading into the 2024 season, there's some nice pieces on the inside, but they're really looking for a guy to take a step forward. So I think Georgia kind of addressed all their needs defensively with this unit.
All right, Andrew, you mentioned the 2 5-star defensive backs. So let's look at those guys a little bit further. KJ Bolden, he was a win on the recruiting trail about a month ago, getting him to flip from Florida State. He'll have the opportunity to compete for a starting spot. And then Ellis Robinson has gotten to participate in Orange Bowl practices. Ivins, which recruit is more important to the Bulldogs?
I think it's Ellis Robinson. Georgia has an opening at cornerback opposite of Dalen Everett. It's hard for a true freshman corner to step in and make plays, but I think Ellis Robinson is one of the safest prospects we've come across for a perimeter corner in recent cycles. And we saw him at the Under Armour All-America game in one of the practices. He absolutely took over. It was the best individual performance I've seen in an all-star setting for a cornerback. 3 interceptions, multiple pass breakups, and he was doing it against 5-star wide receivers like Cam Coleman. You talk to people in Athens, they're fired up about Ellis Robinson. If you were looking for a candidate to be the Caleb Downs of the 2024 college football season, meaning an impact true freshman, I think it starts with Ellis.
In terms of securing your in-state talent, I'm sure that in the amount of time that Kirby Smart invested into KJ Bolden, it was really important for them to land him and flip him from Florida State after missing out on him in the summer. But I'm in agreement with Andrew here. I think with Georgia having a potential opening at that boundary corner position opposite of Dalen Everett this next year, it'll be interesting to see whether Ellis Robinson can crack that starting rotation. I think there's a really good chance that he is that starting cornerback for Georgia when they play Clemson week 1. And as a result, I would say that was the most important add that Georgia had in the 2024 cycle. Everything that Andrew said right there. He's more college ready than most cornerbacks that are coming in. He's someone that, despite a really valiant push from Miami, Georgia did everything that it could to hold on to him after Fran Brown took the Syracuse job. And so it was really critical for Georgia to hold on to Ellis Robinson. And so I would say that of everybody that Georgia signed in the 2024 class, he was the most important prospect for the Bulldogs.
Georgia's biggest position hauls came in the trenches. 6 defensive linemen, 6 offensive linemen. But let's talk about the O-line. Kirby Smart was looking for size, and that's exactly what he got. You look up top to bottom in this list, it's incredible. The smallest commit comes in at 6'5", 320. The largest measures at 6'7", 365. Ben, what can you tell us about this group?
Yeah, Kirby Smart and Stacey Searles clearly had a type this recruiting cycle, and it was just big and athletic is what they were hoping for. And I think that the idea behind it was if you take Daniel Calhoun, Michael Uni, Marquise Easley, Nair Daniels, get them into a Georgia strength and conditioning program and see how their bodies develop, what they could look like 2 years from now, gives them a chance to, be the next in line of the Amarius Mimses or the Broderick Joneses or the potential first round offensive tackle types of talents. I think that the big thing there is what I just alluded to. There's some development that's going to come along with all of these guys because Kirby Smart alluded to it at his early signing day press conference. Yeah, these are really talented guys. The offensive line is beefed up in this cycle, but a lot of them have to get their bodies right over the next several months to be in playing shape to play at the University of Georgia. And for some of them, that's probably not even going to happen until year 2. But I think for Georgia to take 6 offensive linemen, like you mentioned, Malachi Tolliver at 6'5", 320, being the quote-unquote smallest of the bunch, says a lot about what I think Georgia is bringing into this room. And we know that these championships are won in the trenches. And so them having 6 defensive linemen, 6 offensive linemen, and really, getting stronger up front is what Georgia knows it needs to do to keep the dynasty alive.
Ben, I don't know if they still call it the Great Wall of Athens, but I've been calling it that since back in the summer months when all these dudes committed. Look, they averaged 345 pounds. I went back and looked past 5 years in the SEC. This is a historically big group. Ben brought up a good point. You're going to have to melt some of them down. But if you're Georgia, the thing is, none of your SEC competition got these individuals. There's only so many big, heavy, athletic dudes out there, and Georgia is hoarding the mass. This is what Kirby Smart has realized you need to do, not only to win the SEC, but to also win the college football playoff. To me, what stands out, Daniel Calhoun, he's a guy that can play on the inside outside. Michael Uiani, I think he can play on the inside outside. I'm excited to see, 1, 2, 3 years down the line, what does this starting 5 look like? Who is the bookend tackles? Who's on the inside? Daniel Calhoun, I think he is clear-cut the guy I keep hearing mentioned when you talk to people in Athens. They feel really excited about him, could potentially push for playing time. Remember, they also signed a really good offensive line class in 2023. Monroe Freeling saw some action as a true freshman. But Michael Uiani, he was a surprise not only of the Under Armour All-American game, but the Polynesian Bowl. Thought he moved really well for someone that is close to 350 pounds. So it's a unique group. You can make a case that it's the best offensive line haul in the country. I think Wisconsin, LSU also in the conversation. But we love that Great Wall of Athens.
Lots of players to be excited about in this one. 24 blue chip recruits. That is the most in the FBS. Ben, which players specifically are the coaching staff particularly excited about?
Well, we've called out a couple of them already here, so I'll go with some fresh names. I mean, one, with the way that the Dylan Raiola recruitment unfolded there close to the early signing period and him late flipping to Nebraska, the reviews that have come out about Ryan Puglisi early in the spring are really important for Georgia after having not taken a 2023 quarterback and then their seemingly top quarterback in the 2024 class not ending up in the recruiting class either. Ryan Puglisi had a really strong Orange Bowl set of practices. Talking with folks around Athens, it sounds like just the moxie and the arm talent sort of speak for themselves. And you've already seen publicly a couple of Georgia players, like senior defensive linemen, that have no need to sort of blow smoke up Ryan Puglisi. They have been saying how amazing he's been and how impressed they've been through the brief time that they've had with him so far. So I think for Georgia, having a guy that sort of feels like the guy at quarterback despite losing Dylan Raiola is really, really important. And then also go to the other side of the ball in defense. Someone that, Andrew, we got to see down in San Antonio for the All-American Bowl. Defensive lineman Jordan Thomas is someone that the Georgia defensive line staff, I think, is really optimistic about. I was impressed and maybe surprised even just the physical frame and stature that he had when we were down in San Antonio. And I think that he's someone that Georgia really thinks from an athletic standpoint, from a size standpoint, has the ability to play zero tech, play one tech, play three tech, sort of move along that interior defensive line for Georgia and, attack in a lot of different ways. And so I think that he's someone that didn't get to go through Orange Bowl practices, so there might be a little bit more of a learning curve this spring when the pads finally come on, but someone that I think that Georgia's really, really excited about getting on campus.
I love both those picks, man. I'm going to go with someone I don't think I've ever talked about on the 24/7 Sports airwaves, Sakovi White. Athlete, in-state athlete, 3-star prospect. Is he a wide receiver? Is he a defensive back? Is he a return man? I don't know, but I've heard from multiple people at Georgia, it's just a kid they had to get, and they're going to figure it out later. Heard he showed up to Orange Bowl practices and turned some heads right away. Look, Sakovi White, not the biggest individual, but man, his short area quickness, he can make cuts at full speed. I think he's someone that can make an impact in the return game. And if you're looking for a player comp, and I'm not saying this is who he is, but think about like Ladd McConkey in Georgia's offense, a guy that is a tactical route runner, sets up defensive backs, and is able to create separation. We'll see if Sakovi White can do that, but he's a 3-sport athlete. I think he's kind of the hidden gem of this recruiting class that no one's talking about, and I think we can look up 2-3 years down the line, and he's someone that's making plays in the SEC and has a role for the Bulldogs. So Sakovi White, for me, is the guy that's flown under the radar.
All right, so we got the Ladd McConkey comp, the Great Wall of Athens, the rich just getting richer. As Georgia closes 2024 with the top recruiting class in the cycle. Ben Wolk and Andrew Ivins, thanks so much. And for more Georgia football and recruiting news, check out dogs247.com. Ben and his staff in Athens got you covered from signing day to the postseason and everything in between. That's dogs247.com.